The morning fog hung thick over the Scottish coastline on March 23, 1943, when Bartholomew Sinclair pressed his ear against the cold metal housing of his unauthorized contraption. The Admiralty had explicitly forbidden further experimentation with acoustic detection beyond their approved parameters, but the blind engineer couldn't ignore what his enhanced hearing told him. Through the primitive speakers of his cobbled-together device, he detected the unmistakable rhythmic pulse of diesel engines cutting through ocean waves. The reading on his improvised oscilloscope showed what should have been impossible: a German U-boat operating 47 miles offshore, far beyond the range of any existing detection system. His fingers trembled as he adjusted the frequency dials, knowing that what he was about to report would either save countless Allied shipping lives or end his naval research career forever. The acrid smell of electrical components filled the cramped laboratory as sparks flew from overloaded circuits, but Sinclair pressed forward, defying direct orders from his superiors, who had dismissed his theories as the fantasies of a man compensating for his disability. No one in the Royal Navy's Anti-Submarine Warfare Division knew that one man's defiance that morning would rewrite the mathematics of naval combat and turn the tide of the Battle of the Atlantic. Bartholomew Sinclair had not been born to challenge the Royal Navy's most fundamental assumptions about warfare. He grew up in the industrial town of Wolverhampton, where his father worked as a precision machinist in a factory that produced components for steam engines. The Sinclair household valued quiet competence over grand gestures, and young Bartholomew seemed destined for a similar life of mechanical precision until scarlet fever struck when he was 21 years old. The illness left him completely blind, but it also awakened something extraordinary in his remaining senses. While other young men his age pursued traditional careers, Bartholomew spent hours in his father's workshop, learning to identify different metals by the sound they made when struck, distinguishing between properly tuned and misaligned machinery by subtle variations in mechanical rhythm. His mother, a former music teacher, recognized his unusual auditory gifts and arranged for him to study acoustics and mathematics at Birmingham University. His professors were initially skeptical about a blind student pursuing engineering, but Bartholomew's ability to detect flaws in experimental equipment by sound alone soon made him indispensable in the laboratory. He could hear harmonic distortions that escaped trained engineers, identify resonance frequencies that others missed, and detect mechanical problems before they became visible. When war erupted across Europe in 1939, Bartholomew volunteered for military service, despite his disability, driven by fierce patriotism inherited from his father's service in the Great War. A Royal Navy commander named Fitzpatrick, who had heard about Sinclair's acoustic innovations, arranged for him to join the Anti-Submarine Warfare Division as a civilian research consultant. He had no idea that soon those extraordinary auditory instincts would be all that stood between Allied merchant vessels and complete annihilation in the Atlantic shipping lanes. The Royal Navy's submarine detection capabilities in 1943 relied primarily on ASDIC, the active sonar system that sent sound pulses through water and listened for echoes bouncing off enemy hulls. While revolutionary compared to Great War-era hydrophones, ASDIC had severe limitations that German U-boat commanders had learned to exploit mercilessly. The system worked effectively only at ranges under 3 miles, required the detecting vessel to remain relatively stationary, and could be fooled by thermal layers, schools of fish, and underwater terrain features. More critically, ASDIC's active pulses announced the presence of Allied vessels to any submarine equipped with passive listening devices, effectively alerting enemy commanders to incoming threats. Sinclair joined the research team at Portsmouth Naval Base, where he was assigned to improve existing hydrophone arrays, passive listening devices that detected submarine engine noise without revealing the listener's position. His blindness, initially seen as a liability by military colleagues, soon proved advantageous in the acoustically focused world of submarine detection. While sighted engineers relied heavily on visual displays and oscilloscope readings, Sinclair developed an almost supernatural ability to interpret raw audio signals directly. He could distinguish between the sound signatures of different submarine classes, identify specific engine types by their acoustic fingerprints, and estimate range and bearing through subtle variations in signal strength and harmonic content. His commanding officer, Captain Reginald Blackwood, remained skeptical of unconventional approaches, insisting that proper naval procedures required strict adherence to established detection protocols. The tension between innovation and regulation would soon reach a breaking point as German U-boats continued sinking Allied shipping faster than replacements could be built. The Battle of the Atlantic had become a mathematical nightmare for Allied strategists by early 1943. German U-boats were sinking merchant vessels at a rate of nearly 600,000 tons per month, while Allied shipbuilding capacity struggled to replace even half that tonnage. Admiral Karl Dunitz's Wolfpack tactics had proven devastatingly effective, with coordinated submarine groups attacking convoys simultaneously from multiple directions, overwhelming escort vessels equipped with short-range detection systems. The strategic implications extended far beyond mere shipping losses. Britain's ability to continue fighting depended entirely on American supplies crossing the Atlantic safely, and every sunk cargo vessel carried desperately needed food, fuel, ammunition, and raw materials. Intelligence reports indicated that Germany was launching 2 new U-boats for every one the Allies managed to sink, suggesting that conventional anti-submarine warfare methods were not merely inadequate, but fundamentally flawed. The Royal Navy's official doctrine emphasized aggressive pursuit and attack using ASDIC-equipped destroyers and corvettes. But this approach required enemy submarines to venture within 3 miles of Allied vessels before detection became possible. Experienced U-boat commanders had adapted their tactics accordingly, attacking from longer ranges with advanced torpedoes, then disappearing into the vast Atlantic before escort vessels could respond effectively. Sinclair recognized that detecting enemy submarines at ranges of 20, 30, or even 50 miles would fundamentally change the tactical equation, giving Allied escorts time to coordinate responses, warn merchant vessels, and position themselves advantageously before attacks commenced. Unfortunately, his superiors considered such detection ranges physically impossible, given the known limitations of underwater sound transmission. The crisis that would test Sinclair's forbidden theories began developing on March 20th, 1943, when convoy HX-229 departed New York Harbor bound for Liverpool with 43 merchant vessels carrying vital war supplies. Intelligence intercepts suggested that German U-boat command had positioned at least 12 submarines along the convoy's projected route, preparing for coordinated attacks that could devastate the Allied shipping effort. Traditional convoy protection consisted of 6 escort vessels equipped with standard ASDIC systems, but their 3-mile detection range meant they could only respond to submarine attacks after torpedoes had already been launched. Sinclair had been working secretly on modifications to the Portsmouth base's experimental hydrophone array, extending the listening range by amplifying weak signals and filtering out background ocean noise using techniques derived from his musical training. His unauthorized equipment consumed enormous amounts of electrical power, frequently overloaded the base's generators, and produced results that his colleagues dismissed as atmospheric interference or equipment malfunction. Captain Blackwood had explicitly ordered him to discontinue the experiments and focus on improving conventional ASDIC calibration procedures, but Sinclair continued his research during off-duty hours, convinced that long-range acoustic detection represented the only hope of countering German Wolfpack tactics. His makeshift laboratory occupied a converted storage room beneath the main communications center, where he had assembled an elaborate array of amplifiers, filters, and recording devices, using components salvaged from damaged naval equipment. On the evening of March 22nd, as convoy HX-229 approached the mid-Atlantic gap where air cover became impossible, Sinclair detected faint engine signatures that his instruments suggested were operating at ranges exceeding 40 miles from the nearest Allied vessels. He spent hours verifying the readings, cross-checking frequency patterns against known German submarine acoustic signatures, and calculating triangulated positions based on signal strength variations. The mathematics seemed impossible according to accepted underwater acoustics theory, but Sinclair's enhanced hearing insisted that German U-boats were maneuvering into attack positions far beyond the reach of convoy escorts. The weight of that decision pressed against Sinclair's conscience as he sat alone in his cluttered laboratory during the early hours of March 23rd, listening to acoustic signals that conventional wisdom insisted could not exist. Through his improvised detection system, he could hear what sounded like at least 8 different submarine engine signatures scattered across a 100-square-mile area of ocean, all converging slowly toward convoy HX-229's projected course. His calculations suggested that the U-boats would reach optimal attack positions within 6 to 8 hours, positioning themselves to launch coordinated torpedo strikes from multiple directions simultaneously. Standard convoy defense procedures assumed that escort vessels would detect approaching submarines with sufficient time to mount effective countermeasures, but Asdike's 3-mile range meant that by the time conventional detection occurred, torpedoes would already be traveling toward their targets. Sinclair's unauthorized long-range acoustic system offered the possibility of detecting the Wolfpack, while there was still time to alter the convoy's course, redistribute escort vessels, or request emergency air support from distant Allied bases. However, reporting his findings would require him to admit that he had been conducting unauthorized experiments in direct violation of Captain Blackwood's explicit orders. The penalty for such disobedience could range from immediate dismissal to court-martial, effectively ending any possibility of contributing further to the war effort. The metallic taste of fear mixed with determination filled his mouth as he reached for the emergency communication telephone that would connect him directly to convoy routing headquarters. The conversation that followed would later be described by participants as one of the most contentious exchanges in Royal Navy wartime communications history. Commander Patricia Wellesley, the duty officer at convoy routing headquarters, initially refused to accept Sinclair's report of multiple submarine contacts at ranges exceeding 40 miles from convoy HX-229. Her response reflected standard military skepticism toward intelligence that contradicted established operational parameters, but it also revealed the institutional prejudices that disabled personnel faced when attempting to contribute to war efforts. Wellesley questioned whether Sinclair's disability might be causing him to misinterpret equipment readings or atmospheric noise, suggesting that his acoustic analysis lacked the precision required for tactical decision-making. Sinclair responded by providing detailed technical specifications for each detected submarine, including engine types, probable tonnage classifications, estimated speeds, and projected intercept courses, calculated through triangulation algorithms he had developed independently. His presentation combined the mathematical rigor of trained engineering with intuitive acoustic insights that only his enhanced hearing could provide, creating a comprehensive threat assessment that was either brilliantly accurate or completely delusional. Finally, recognizing that the potential consequences of ignoring the warning outweighed the risks of acting on questionable intelligence, she agreed to forward Sinclair's report to convoy escort commanders with the caveat that it represented unconfirmed information from experimental sources. The decision transformed a single blind engineer's act of disobedience into official Royal Navy intelligence, setting in motion a series of tactical responses that would test both Sinclair's acoustic theories and the convoy system's ability to adapt to unconventional threats. Captain Harrison Pembroke commanded HMS Volunteer, the lead escort vessel for convoy HX-229, and his initial reaction to Sinclair's submarine detection report mixed professional skepticism with grudging recognition that unconventional intelligence sometimes proved accurate. The report described 8 German U-boats positioned in what appeared to be classic wolfpack formation, with individual submarines maintaining stations that would allow coordinated attacks from multiple directions once the convoy entered their engagement envelope. If accurate, Sinclair's intelligence suggested that the German boats were maintaining radio silence and running submerged during daylight hours to avoid Allied air patrols, surfacing only briefly at night to recharge batteries and receive command communications. Pembroke ultimately decided to implement a modified version of Sinclair's recommendations, altering the convoy's course by 10 degrees while maintaining enhanced vigilance for submarine contacts within conventional ASDIC range. His compromise approach acknowledged the possibility that long-range acoustic detection might be accurate while avoiding the risks associated with completely abandoning established tactics. The decision would prove crucial as events unfolded throughout that March morning, testing both conventional wisdom and revolutionary acoustic theory under the harsh scrutiny of actual combat conditions. The first confirmation of Sinclair's extraordinary detection capabilities came at 11:15 that morning when HMS Volunteer's ASDIC operator reported a submarine contact bearing 270 degrees at a range of 2.8 miles from the convoy's leading edge. The contact matched precisely with one of the 8 submarine positions that Sinclair had identified through his unauthorized long-range acoustic system, providing the first concrete evidence that his detection methods could accurately locate German U-boats at distances far beyond conventional capabilities. Lieutenant Commander Miles Ashford, who had initially opposed acting on unverified intelligence, found himself staring at tactical displays that confirmed the blind engineer's calculations with unsettling precision. The detected U-boat was maintaining exactly the course and speed that Sinclair had predicted, positioning itself for a torpedo attack on the convoy's port flank that would have achieved complete tactical surprise under normal circumstances. Pembroke immediately ordered the convoy to alter course by an additional 15 degrees, while directing HMS Volunteer and 2 other escort vessels to engage the detected submarine with depth charges and coordinated attack patterns. The engagement that followed demonstrated both the advantages of advance warning and the limitations of conventional anti-submarine weapons when used against experienced U-boat commanders. However, the tactical significance of the engagement extended far beyond immediate results. For the first time in the Battle of the Atlantic, Allied forces had detected and engaged a German submarine before it could achieve firing position, fundamentally altering the tactical equation that had previously favored coordinated wolfpack attacks. The cascade of tactical consequences that followed Sinclair's initial detection revealed how a single technological breakthrough could reshape entire operational concepts. As HMS Volunteer engaged the first confirmed U-boat contact, the remaining 7 submarines identified through long-range acoustic detection found themselves in an increasingly untenable position. Their coordinated attack plan had depended on achieving simultaneous torpedo launches from multiple directions, overwhelming the convoy's escort vessels through sheer volume of incoming threats. However, advance warning of their positions allowed Captain Pembroke to redistribute his escort forces strategically, positioning individual vessels to intercept anticipated attack approaches while maintaining overlapping coverage around the merchant ships. The German submarine commanders, trained to exploit the 3-mile detection range of conventional ASDIC systems, suddenly faced the tactical nightmare of Allied escorts that seemed to anticipate their movements from impossible distances. 3 additional U-boats were forced to abort their attack approaches when escort vessels moved to intercept them before they could reach firing positions, while 2 others found themselves trapped between converging Allied ships that seemed to track their movements with impossible precision. The mathematical certainty of coordinated submarine attacks, which had formed the foundation of German Atlantic strategy, crumbled when faced with detection capabilities that extended operational awareness far beyond previously accepted limitations. By mid-afternoon on March 23rd, the Wolfpack that had intended to devastate convoy HX-229 found itself scattered and defensive, with several submarines forced to dive deep and remain submerged for extended periods to avoid the concentrated attention of Allied escort forces. The immediate tactical success of Sinclair's unauthorized detection system created ripple effects that extended throughout the Atlantic submarine warfare campaign. Word of the successful convoy defense reached Admiral Max Horton, Commander-in-Chief of Western Approaches, who had been struggling to develop effective countermeasures against increasingly sophisticated German Wolfpack tactics. The Admiral ordered an immediate investigation into Sinclair's acoustic detection methods, temporarily suspending the disciplinary action that Captain Blackwood had initiated for unauthorized experimentation. The investigation team included some of the Royal Navy's most experienced anti-submarine warfare specialists, who found themselves confronting acoustic theories and detection capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about underwater sound transmission. Sinclair's equipment, assembled from salvaged components and powered by overloaded generators, looked primitive compared to official ASDIC installations, but its performance suggested revolutionary possibilities for extending detection ranges and improving tactical awareness. The blind engineer's ability to interpret acoustic signatures that escaped trained ASDIC operators demonstrated how enhanced sensory capabilities could complement technological innovation in ways that conventional military training had not considered. Captain Blackwood, who had initially opposed Sinclair's experimental work, found himself in the uncomfortable position of explaining why promising research had been discouraged, while German U-boats continued sinking Allied shipping at unsustainable rates. The transformation in official attitudes toward Sinclair's acoustic research accelerated rapidly as additional convoys began reporting successful submarine detections at extended ranges using modified versions of his equipment. The pattern of tactical success suggested that long-range acoustic detection represented more than an isolated breakthrough. It offered the possibility of fundamentally altering the strategic balance in the Battle of the Atlantic. German submarine commanders, accustomed to operating with tactical impunity beyond conventional detection ranges, found themselves increasingly vulnerable to Allied forces that seemed to possess unprecedented awareness of U-boat movements and intentions. Attack success rates declined precipitously as submarines found themselves forced to operate at much greater distances from Allied shipping lanes, reducing their effectiveness while increasing fuel consumption and operational risks. The psychological impact on German submarine crews proved as significant as the tactical advantages gained by Allied forces, as U-boat commanders lost confidence in their ability to achieve tactical surprise against convoys protected by long-range acoustic detection systems. The mathematical foundation of German Atlantic strategy, based on calculated submarine attack capabilities against convoys with limited detection ranges, required fundamental revision when Allied escort forces gained the ability to track U-boat movements from distances that had previously been considered safe. The official recognition of Sinclair's contributions came through channels that reflected both military necessity and institutional embarrassment about having initially dismissed his innovative work. Admiral Horton personally reviewed the technical specifications of the long-range acoustic detection system, authorizing immediate production of modified equipment for installation aboard escort vessels throughout the Atlantic convoy routes. The engineering challenges of replicating Sinclair's handmade components using mass production techniques required extensive collaboration between the blind researcher and established naval laboratories, creating an unusual partnership between unconventional innovation and traditional military engineering. Sinclair's unique acoustic insights proved essential for training ASDIC operators to interpret the weak signals and subtle frequency variations that enabled long-range submarine detection, skills that required both technical knowledge and enhanced sensory awareness. The training program he developed emphasized acoustic pattern recognition over visual instrument reading, teaching operators to distinguish between genuine submarine signatures and the environmental noise that had previously masked distant contacts. Captain Blackwood, recognizing the strategic importance of acoustic innovation, recommended Sinclair for promotion to civilian technical advisor with authority to oversee long-range detection research throughout the Western Approaches Command. The strategic implications of extended submarine detection capabilities became apparent as Allied shipping losses declined dramatically throughout the latter half of 1943. Convoy HX-229, which had been the first to benefit from Sinclair's long-range acoustic system, arrived safely in Liverpool with all 43 merchant vessels intact, carrying desperately needed supplies that might otherwise have been lost to German torpedoes. The successful defense encouraged additional implementation of long-range detection equipment aboard escort vessels, protecting the most critical shipping routes, gradually extending Allied tactical awareness across the entire Atlantic theater. German U-boat commanders found themselves operating in an increasingly hostile environment where their traditional advantages of stealth and tactical surprise had been systematically eroded by Allied detection capabilities that seemed to violate the laws of underwater acoustics. By December 1943, Allied shipping losses had declined to their lowest levels since the beginning of the war, while German submarine losses increased dramatically as U-boats found themselves exposed to coordinated attacks by escort forces that could track their movements from extraordinary distances. The transformation represented more than tactical improvement. It marked a fundamental shift in the strategic balance that would ultimately contribute to Allied victory in the Battle of the Atlantic. The irony of Sinclair's achievement became apparent only in retrospect, as military historians recognized how his blindness had actually enhanced his ability to develop acoustic systems that sighted engineers had considered impossible. His disability, initially viewed as a liability that required accommodation and special consideration, had provided him with sensory capabilities and analytical perspectives that proved crucial for solving technical problems that had frustrated conventional research approaches. The acoustic awareness that developed as compensation for lost vision enabled him to perceive submarine signatures and sound patterns that escaped the attention of trained personnel who relied primarily on visual instruments and established procedures. His success challenged fundamental assumptions about how physical disabilities affected individual capabilities and contributions, demonstrating that apparent limitations could sometimes represent unique advantages when properly understood and systematically developed. The military's initial reluctance to utilize his services fully reflected broader societal prejudices about disabled individuals that proved counterproductive when measured against actual performance and achievement. His experience illustrated how institutional conservatism could suppress innovative solutions to critical problems, as established hierarchies and conventional thinking patterns failed to recognize valuable contributions from unconventional sources. The enduring lesson of Bartholomew Sinclair's extraordinary wartime achievement lies not merely in the technical innovation of long-range submarine detection, but in the broader demonstration of how individual creativity and determination could overcome institutional prejudice and conventional wisdom to produce strategic consequences that fundamentally altered the course of history. His success in developing acoustic systems that detected German U-boats at 50-mile ranges challenged accepted principles of underwater warfare while saving countless Allied lives through technologies that emerged from unauthorized experimentation and unconventional approaches to complex technical problems. The transformation from dismissed disabled researcher to influential naval technical advisor illustrated how apparent limitations could sometimes represent unique advantages when properly understood and systematically developed, providing inspiration for generations of individuals who faced skepticism about their capabilities and contributions. His experience demonstrated that exceptional achievements often emerged from unexpected directions when circumstances aligned to provide opportunities for unconventional talent to address critical challenges through innovative methods that established expertise had failed to develop despite superior resources and traditional advantages. The strategic consequences of his work, fundamentally altering the tactical balance in the Battle of the Atlantic and contributing to Allied victory through technological superiority, illustrate how individual creativity and determination can produce historical impact when circumstances align to provide opportunities for unconventional talent to address critical challenges. The mathematics of courage that Bartholomew Sinclair demonstrated on that foggy morning in March 1943 continue resonating through history, reminding us that exceptional achievement often requires willingness to challenge established authority and conventional wisdom when human lives and critical objectives hang in the balance. His decision to report unauthorized submarine detection despite explicit orders to discontinue his research represented more than technical innovation. It embodied the moral choice between institutional compliance and humanitarian responsibility that defines true heroism in times of crisis. The 50-mile detection range that his acoustic system achieved became more than a technical specification. It represented the distance between conventional thinking and revolutionary possibility, between accepted limitation and extraordinary achievement. Would you have broken the order or obeyed it? Comment below and share this story so others remember what courage really means when the mathematics of warfare demand solutions that exist beyond the boundaries of established doctrine and institutional assumption.